If you get your news about the 2024 presidential election from Donald Trump's feed on Truth Social, you probably think he's got this thing locked up. And I will say, do not write him out of this thing. It's still entirely possible that Trump could win it. But the polling right now not only indicates that he's not in the commanding position that he thinks he is, but even that one of the potential dramatic X factors of the race that might blow this whole thing up, maybe not so much. And there I'm talking about Joe Manchin. So we're gonna jump through a couple different things that were revealed in this Monmouth University poll. First of all, they found that overall 47% of voters say that they would definitely or probably support Biden, and just 40% that they would back Trump. We're more than a year away from the election, but 7 points, there are worse positions to be in. The thing is, it's not likely to just be a two-person race. Joe Manchin might well run as a third-party candidate for no labels. You have Cornel West as well for the Green Party. You have some other chuckleheads who knows what they'll end up doing. But here's the thing, when you throw them in there, so in this particular poll, a potential unity ticket of Joe Manchin and former Utah Governor Jon Huntsman, that apparently would barely eat into Biden's lead. He would still boast a 40 to 34% advantage over Trump. So 6 points. You add in Joe Manchin with a Republican, and it hurts him by just 1 point and still holds a fairly commanding lead. Now, there's a couple of other interesting results in here, but Brett, I guess I would not have expected this. I would have thought that Joe Manchin's support would have come from, I guess, more conservative Democrats, and it doesn't really seem like that's the case. Or that if that is the case, there's not many of them.
What you need, so here's the only take I really have on this, is that the people who are backing a take like this are a political action committee with an intention that is not to have their party candidate win, typically. And Manchin is really the one that everybody's talking about. Anyone who's complaining about Green Party stuff, blah, 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 whatever, you can do that. It's the same conversation literally every time. And there have been different results literally every time there have been candidates from different third party candidates. But it's what's it called? There's the initiative from that one group that's like the third party take. No labels, right? And no labels is only spending money right now and targeting their messaging in states that were essentially swing states that went to Democrats last time. So these kinds of generic polls are good to know the prevailing sentiment, but as we all know, under an electoral system like we have, where it's tiny variations in certain states, wildly vary and drastically affect the outcome, So at the end of that, it's don't lose the forest for the trees of this Monmouth poll. Focus on getting these PACs like no labels, which also do not disclose who their donors are and what their intentions are. They are only from their actions, they're only acting in ways that hurt Democrats.
Okay. Potentially. Then I want to move away from the particulars of the top level of the race. And I want to get into a little bit of the argument that's made by no labels, which other groups make a similar argument, but they don't necessarily make it for the same reason. So no labels is saying we might have to run a candidate like a Joe Manchin or whatever. And they're being really cagey about all of this because people are not happy with the candidates on offer by the Democrats or the Republicans, which on some level obviously is true, but not necessarily in the way that they imply. So the idea that people really don't like the parties, there's a lot of unfavorability towards the parties. Republican Party has an unfavorable rating of 56%, the Democratic Party of 55%. But that doesn't mean that everybody hates both the parties. Only 17% of the electorate holds a negative view of both parties simultaneously. And half of that number is still able to identify a party they dislike more than the other, which means that there is only about 8.5% of the electorate that is at least saying whether it, if you were to really dig in, is what they mean it is, saying I hate both the parties and I would never support them. They're exactly the same. That is actually a fairly minority position. Now, there are different levels of being unsatisfied with candidates. I wish Biden could be replaced with a better candidate on the Democratic side. But that's not the same thing as saying, I'm just gonna throw up my arms. I can't tell the difference between these. I suppose let Joe Manchin at them, which is, I think, the shallow argument that's being made by no labels.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.